Are we all ready for the patch notes review for 3.6 Path of Exile Synthesis League? I am so fucking nervous. All right, let's go ahead and dig into this. Here we go. Synthesis challenge. I haven't read any of this, so I'm doing this totally blind. Challenges are great up. We already know that. All your old items and stuff are still standard. You're encouraged to join the new leagues, complete challenges, and do your mastery things. There's solo self-out. Yes, okay, great. In Synthesis, you will beat Kvass, a spirit who has lost his memories. You gotta find him, remember things. Cool, awesome. Memory Nexus. You build a maze out of memory fragments. You do things with that maze, and things happen. Challenge is great. No one cares. All right, major new content features. New Intelligence Strength Gem per rank. Flame, we already knew about that. Soul Rend, we already knew about that. Bane, we already knew about that. All of the previous spoiler videos are in the description of this video. I'm not gonna read a lot of this stuff. Zealotry, more spell damage, increased critical spells. We already knew about this stuff too. Come on, give me something new. Malevolence, no one cares, we already read that. Energy Leech support, we haven't seen this yet. Supported skills leech a portion of the damage they deal on hit back as energy shield. Supported skills also deal more damage while you're leeching and while you're on full ES. This is interesting. Are they gonna do that to Life Leech too? Why don't they do that to Life Leech? Because nobody uses leech gems because they don't give you more damage. They're garbage. But this actually has a more multiplier, so people might actually use it at endgame. That's kind of cool. Since it is hard to get leech for spellcasters a lot of the times. Alright, new support gem, Intensify. Supported skills have less AoE but deal more area damage per intensity. You gain intensity when used, you lose intensity when you move or teleport. So this is for AoE spellcasters to like amplify your single target. You just sit there and keep casting on an enemy and it'll just make the AoE smaller and smaller and smaller and you'll deal even more damage. It's really, really good for boss killing. I like this support a lot. It makes me want to play Firestorm, actually, so that's nice. New Intelligence Support Gem, Unleash. Supported spells gain seals over time and are unsealed when cast, causing their effects to reoccur for each seal loss. Okay, so this is that charge up, like, ultimate spell echo thing that we saw in the trailer with Fireball. So when you cast a bunch, you gain seals, and then you just vomit all of them at once, which is pretty awesome. But it's like, if you just gain them over time, you have to stop casting, wait for seals, and then blow up something. I guess for boss fighting, that'd be kind of nice. When you're avoiding damage, you can let it build up. I feel like for general mapping, though, that's going to be awful. Because you're not going to like ever have a seal. Maybe like one every once in a while, but you're just going to be casting constantly. I don't know. We'll see how that is. See how fast it gains the seals, see if it's actually worth using. Let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see better. Added more music to early acts. Cool. Added 5 new unique hideouts. Great. Added 17 uniques, 15 new div cards. A lot of these we've already reviewed. New item types, fractured and synthesized items. And then, of course, Path of Exile no longer supports Windows XP or Windows Vista. It will still support a 32-bit client for users of 32-bit versions of Windows. We strongly encourage users to use a 64-bit client if they can. Because fuck all of this noise. Get a better PC. Just install Windows Forehead. Alright, next one. Minor new content feature, Zana model has been updated. We saw this, she's got like red hair now, and it's really bright. And she looks weird, I don't like it. Unique Axe Deviant's Dirge now plays sounds during combat. That's pretty cool. There's only a couple uniques that do this, like Onigoroshi does this, Jack the Axe does this, and now Deviant's Dirge does this. I think there's one other, I can't remember offhand. But they talk to you when you do things, it's really cool. Wind physics to a number of skills, Vaal Blight, Cold Snap, Vaal Cold Snap, and Shock Nova. So when you use them, it'll like probably push things away. Sure. Missing Tarkley dialogue, no one cares. Added enchants for all the new skills, so it's now even harder to get your Uber Lab Helm enchants. Good fucking luck. We're gonna have like, how many new skills did we get? Like 6? So there's probably at least 18 more enchants to go through. We're at 520 enchants now, something like that. Hitting enemies with holy skills now causes a special holy on hit effect to display. Good. More screened vomit. I love it. Skills which involve destroying corpses now cause the gips left by the corpses to disappear after delay. This is actually pretty huge because they're currently permanent, and like if you're mapping all day and somebody makes desecrate corpses in your hideout and then leaves, they're just there for the whole fucking day because your instance never decays because you're always doing something. I like that. That'll be less lag over time and just good quality of life for summoners. Fall skills now have appropriate surge effects. Didn't they discontinue surge because it was like too much sugar and caffeine? I don't know. Updated 3D art for alternate art Cloak of Flame. This might piss people off, actually. Alt art Cloak of Flame is one of the most sought after like alt arts. If it's bad compared to what it is now, people are gonna rage. So it's like 2,000 exalts or more for this chest. Surge was acid in a can, true. Improved performance in a number of boss fights. Hopefully that includes Elder and Uber Elder, because every time they use a portal, you just lag. And with player skills, great. Herald of Ice, cough cough, hint hint maybe. Continue to incrementally improve sound art effects and environments, as always. Alright. Let's get into some crazy shit. Character balance. I'm scared. They added Energy Shield Leech, functionally similar to Life Leech, except for it leeches to your Energy Shield, and is limited by maximum Energy Shield Leech rate. Same as Life and Life maximum rate leech rate. Cool. Several passive skill clusters have been added to support this. Ghost Reaver now causes you to leech Energy Shield instead of Life, and doubles your maximum Energy Shield leech rate. Okay, that's fine. Added a cap on the amount of any resource you can leech from any... Oh god, this is just like... I feel like I have to take a college course to understand how leech works in this fucking game. Added a cap on the amount of any resource you can leech from any individual instance of leech. By default, that cap is 10% of that resource's maximum. In other words, a character with 4,000 life will by default be able to leech a maximum of 400 life from a single hit. Okay. That's... Those are, in fact, words. Alright, remove the minimum and maximum critical strike chance caps, so they're down to 0 and up to 100%. That's a buff for crit builds. In practice, that cap was ignored by effects which apply to enemies such as Acid Mark. We've changed several of these external crit strike sources and have removed the cap as a result. So that's a buff for everybody who wants to overcap on crit. You can actually crit cap. I can't speak English. Related to the above change, the Brittle Ailment now grants up to 10% chance to critically strike afflicted enemies. This chance is further increased by sources of increased critical strike chance, whereas previously, as a result of a bug, it was not. Okay, is this like base crit then? 10% base crit? I don't even know what gives Brittle at all. So yeah, that's probably some league specific unique that I've never seen, but that's cool. Okay. Added a max res maximum. You can no longer have above 90% max res from any source. This is a pretty big nerf to the invuln characters and pathfinders especially, and Orobots. But it's kind of important that we actually be able to take damage at some stage, because if you could just make immune characters, it doesn't matter. Everybody's immune. CI is an exception. You're still going to be able to be immune to chaos damage, but this is for like full immunity to elemental damage and everything else. Improve many cases of damage mitigation being applied before an incoming hit was registered, which would cause the character that would otherwise take no damage to take more damage than expected. So, Gluttony of Elements. Oh wait, no, this is for something else. This is just like a timing delay. In other words, when a monster attacks and uses Immortal Call after attack is used but before it lands. Okay, so what was happening for this, like shield charge enemies, they could actually shield charge, and when they first start attacking the shield charge, it calculates whether or not they're going to hit you and how much damage they deal at that instant. Even if you dodge the animation, they're still going to hit you, and even if you flask after the animation starts, they're still going to hit you. So they fixed that, so it doesn't kill you when you actually avoided it, you know? That's an important thing. Temporary minions, such as skeletons, wolves from the Scourge, die when the summoning character dies or respawns. Cool. I think that includes spiders from Aracali's Fang. Consecrated Ground now affects both allies, life regen, and crit strike chance buffs. Cool. It's worth noting that effects granted while on Consecrated Ground from sources such as Ascendancies will be granted regardless of whether or not the Consecrated Ground was created by you, an ally, or an enemy. Okay, sure. It's a pretty big buff for every crit build. Consecrated Ground used to only give life regen. It now gives 100% increased critical strike chance. That's pretty big. Modifiers which previously affected the cast speed and duration of curses now affect curse skills, including curses and bane. That makes sense. They should have already. Cast speed, curse cast speed, stuff like that. So that's good. Alright, skill reworks. Flame Totem was renamed to Holy Flame Totem. Why couldn't they name it Holy Hand Grenade? It's way better. Creates Consecrated Ground at the totem's location, gives curse immunity. That's pretty huge defensively, actually, for totem characters. Deals pure fizz, 50% fizz to fire. Some base fizz numbers seems kind of low, actually, at level 20. That seems like a really low amount of base damage for a spell. Really low damage effectiveness, too. But it fires additional projectiles and has a wider cone. And it's considered channeling, so you can get more scaling to modify it. I don't know if I like that. That seems like a pretty big nerf, but I don't know what the current Flame Totem damage numbers are. It's also a fizz spell, so you can physical stat stick it. If you have like a Shaper Fizz's extra weapon, it'll give you extra damage on it. It does seem kind of low though. Alright, Storm Burst changes. No longer fires projectiles. Creates orbs of energy when you channel that repeatedly jump towards the targeted location and then explode in a small AoE. I've done a review on all of these already without the numbers. So this is basically just a number analysis. But all that stuff's again in the description. It's a previous video. But yeah, you basically just pile up orbs and you detonate them and it does damage. It's 50% phase to lightning. Same, really, these seem like really low numbers. And they lowered the damage effectiveness. I don't think anybody's going to want to use this or this. We'll see what it turns out in Path of Building, but that seems really low. Alright, skill balance. Reduce the mana costs, reduce mana costs, reduce mana costs. Anger was buffed pretty heavily, actually. Not a lot. Like 20% additional damage, cool. And now gives you even higher damage with spells. By about 30% damage, it looks like. Cool. Good buffs to anger. Arc mana costs were reduced, it looks like. Lowered the cast time and reduced the damage and the damage effectiveness and the range of arc. That's some heavy arc nerfs. Not really. I mean, it's still really fucking good, but they've toned it down. Looks like about maybe 10-15% or so. It's still gonna be one of the best spells by far. All right, Arctic Breath. Reduced mana cost, reduced cast time. Heavily buffed the damage, actually. Okay, cool. This looks like it's about a 30% more. No, 20% more damage on Arctic Breath. That's pretty good. And the cold damage was buffed by like 30% as well. Pretty huge. And they buffed the damage effectiveness. Great. Damage effectiveness is just like the how effective any increased damage or like added flat damage is for that skill in particular. It's a pretty important stat to look at sometimes. Like this is what, 20% on Flame Totem, which is garbage, so it's really hard to scale. 30%, sorry. Armageddon Brand, increased mana cost. Lowered the damage by 1 at level 1, and lowered the damage by 20%, 15% at level 20. Slight nerf to Armageddon Brand. Slight nerf to the damage effectiveness and the cast speed. So they're like toning down the really powerful shit. Arc, Armageddon Brand. I'm assuming BV is going to get nerfed as well here in a second. That makes sense. They're a little bit too powerful, so they lowered them a little bit. And then they're going to buff everything else to compensate. Assassin's Mark, reduced mana costs by quite a bit, actually. Cool. I'm not sure what exactly this does. I think it's a buff. I'd have to POB it. This now scales with your crit strike chance, where it didn't before. I think that's a buff. But it's hard to tell without Path of Building calculating it for me. Sure. All right, Ball Lightning, reduced mana costs, reduced cast time. That's a buff. Looks like heavily buffed at level 1. Holy shit. That's like 30% more damage at level 1. Nice. And basically the same at endgame. So Ball Lightning sucked at early game, they buffed the early game, left the endgame alone. They buffed the damage effectiveness as well, so you can scale it further. Awesome. If you're missing anything, all of this will be on YouTube afterwards, don't worry about it. Blade Vortex, looks like they reduced the mana cost at level 20, reduced the damage at level 1, and at level 20, and reduced the damage effectiveness. So nerfs across the board for Blade Vortex, except for the mana cost thing. Blade Fall, reduced mana cost, reduced mana cost. It gained 1 damage at level 1 and like 20 damage at level 20. So slight buff to Bladefall, sure. That's cool. Blight. Increased to mana cost. Increased to base damage at level 1 and increased to base damage at level 20. Nice. And it gets a huge amount of more AoE. Okay, so pretty heavy Blight buffs. I like that. Blood Rage, mana cost reduced. Body Swap, mana cost reduced. Brand Recall, mana cost reduced. Cleave can now affect up to 40 targets per attack from 20. I didn't even know this was a limit. Why is that not written in game somewhere? So you could only ever hit 20 enemies with Cleave at once? Why would they... What? Okay, I mean, they doubled it, so I guess that's good, but I didn't even know that was possible. Melee buff confirmed! Alright, next thing. Cold Snap reduced... Oh, sorry, no. Buffed mana cost, that's bad. Increased mana costs. Looks like they buffed the damage and lowered. Why would? Okay, they lowered the damage by like 3. This seems like such a why? Why even bother? From 668 to 666 damage, and 1002 to 999 damage. We've lost a grand total of 5 damage. 2.5 average damage lost. Well, shit. I don't know if I can play this skill anymore. It's just garbage. Oh, they nerfed the dot by 3 as well. God, completely fucking unplayable, GGG. 3 damage? What am I supposed... 3 damage? I need that... How am I gonna do Uber Elder with 3 less damage? Alright, anyways. Contagion mana cost was reduced. Can also okay. So look, another one of those weird buffs. I didn't know Contagion was limited to 20 targets per cast. I never played Essence Drain Contagion, but that seems like it'd be a pretty huge problem in really dense maps. But they fixed it. Okay, sure. There must be a lot of like hidden stuff like this we don't know about. They can only hit so many targets. I don't know. Reduce mana cost of Convocation, and they halve the cooldown. This is a massive fucking buff for summoners. Like, actually insane. Convocation is the spell that you can cast to bring your minions back to you. So if you want to save your specters or your zombies or whatever, your Herald of Agony crawler, like you can bring them back to you twice as fast. And this is affected by cooldown reduction, so that's awesome. All right, cremation buffs. What do we got? Or changes, sorry. Reduced mana costs. Looks like buffed base damage at level 1 and buffed damage at endgame by quite a bit as well. Gave it some more AoE, increased damage effectiveness. So just overall buffs for cremation. That's awesome. Dark Pact. What do we got? Slightly lowered mana cost, bigger radius. So they buffed the AoE on it. And now has higher damage at level 1 and higher damage at level 20. Overall buffs for Dark Pact. Very nice. Desecrate, reduce mana cost, reduce mana cost. Cool. Despair, reduce mana costs. Detonate Dead, reduce mana costs. Huge buff at level 1, as well as a slight nerf at endgame. So too powerful at endgame, bad at early game, so they just flip-flopped it. But they gave it, oh, holy shit, never mind. Huge buff at endgame. What? They buffed the damage effectiveness by 60%? That's huge. This doesn't matter at all, because all of your scaling is going to be even more multiplied because of this. That's awesome. Okay, buffs to Detonate Dead then. Discharge, reduced mana costs, reduced cast speed by quite a bit. 25% reduced cast speed. That's huge. Like faster casting, sorry. More damage per power charge and more damage at level 20. So this looks like overall buffs across the board for discharge. Oh no, they've nerfed the endurance charge. Why did they nerf? Wait, hang on. Am I reading this wrong? 244 to 365. They lowered the damage on the fire, but they upped the damage on the lightning. And they lowered the damage on the frenzy. Why? I guess, I don't know. Someone do the math. Is this the same average damage? They buffed lightning, which is power charges. So they buffed crit discharge, which they nerfed the other sides. I've never seen a cold discharger, but I guess they'll be slightly... No, I guess they buffed this in. They just nerfed the fire one. They buffed maximum cold, maximum lightning, minimum fire, but they nerfed maximum fire. Or am I just unable to read? I think they might have upped all of them. Dude, there's too many fucking numbers. Alright, sorry. They're all buffed. I'm stupid. Alright, moving on. Elemental Weakness. Mana costs reduced. Enduring Cry. Mana costs reduced. Enfeeble. Mana costs reduced. They changed it so it's like a split effect. It's no longer like one for everything. And this is a slight nerf to like dealing less damage with rare and unique enemies, so it means we're going to take more damage from them. They wanted it so you could have like more curse effectiveness on bosses for damage scaling, but they also wanted to nerf Enfeeble so it wasn't as powerful against bosses. Say with Temp Chains, I don't know if it's going to be on here, but they said something about that as well. This is better for trash mobs, worse for normal mobs. Okay, Essence Drain mana cost. Reduce. Cast speed is faster. Explodes on impact, applying Essence Drain debuff to enemies in a small radius. That's actually really cool. It doesn't deal any hit damage, though. But it does get at the area damage gem. Area gem tag. Okay. Buff base damage and buff maximum damage. And they buff the dot. Dude, look at that dot buff. Holy shit. From 1150 to 1500. That's a pretty huge buff to Essence Drain. I don't know, like, I guess they don't want you to have to use Contagion as much. You could still spread it through just the casting Essence Drain by itself, so that's kind of cool. Next one, Ethereal Knives. Lowered mana costs, buffed the base damage, and heavily buffed the maximum damage. Holy shit. That's like 50% more, 40% more damage. And they buffed the damage effectiveness. EK Nova back on the menu. We can still stat stick it. It's a fizz spell. Alright, Explosive Trap. You can get more AoE with it. Great. They've made it 1 less damage at level 1 and slightly less damage at level 20. Like 30 less damage. But they gave it better scaling. Like this damage effectiveness buff means it's overall going to deal more damage if you invest into it. It also gets more AoE as it levels, so that's cool. That's overall a buff, even though this is a slight nerf. The rest of it will overcompensate for that. Fire Nova Mine, reduce mana cost, buff damage effectiveness, so overall buffs there. Fireball, reduce mana costs. Buffs at level 1 and a pretty heavy buff at level 20 as well. Like 15% more damage and 20% more damage effectiveness. Pretty good. Firestorm buffs. They didn't change level 1, but they... Wow, okay, what am I looking at? Didn't change level 1 at all. Level 20 lost 2 damage, and it got faster cast speed. So they didn't really change it. It's like barely a change. It doesn't get AoE or anything. That kind of sucks. Alright, Flame Dash mana cost reduced. Flame Surge mana cost reduced. Buff damage at level 1 and buff damage at level 20. Also has length as a gem levels. Ooh, we can have some long Flame Surges. Ooh. Okay, that's actually, I don't know how long this actually is. 9 length. I mean, anybody in chat have 9 length? Let's talk about them. Okay, Flame Blast, reduced mana costs. Now deals a little bit less damage at level 1 and higher damage at level 20 and better damage effectiveness. So better endgame scaling. Cool. Flamethrower Traps, slight buff and slight buff. Cool. Freeze Mine, no one cares. It's useless. Freeze Pulse, reduced mana costs. Buff damage and pretty heavy buff damage at endgame as well as better scaling. Okay. Too bad they didn't fix the issue where if you shoot it at a door, it just stops. That's the main issue with Freeze Pulse. The only reason people don't play it is because anytime you shoot it at a door, it just disappears. It's garbage. Fix that and everybody will play it, maybe. I mean, more people will play it. Frostbomb, mana cost reduced. Now applies cold exposure instead of reducing the cold res. I think that what the point of this exposure thing is they want you to only be able to get like 1 or 2 sources of exposure, or just the highest one applies. Because currently we can just stack a bunch of negative resistance items with like Equilibrium and cold exposure here, or with Frostbomb and then like elemental weakness, Frostbite. I don't even know, there's probably other things. Negative cold res aura on your helmet, like they're making it so that it's a different thing, so that you can't just stack them multiplicatively, which is probably good for the health of the game. Frostwall, mana cost reduced. Frostbolt, mana cost reduced. Buffed the damage at level 1 and a pretty heavy buff at endgame as well. Holy shit. Dude, these are so many buffs. Glacial Cascade, reduced mana cost, reduced cast time, so it's faster. Lowered the damage at level 1 and lowered the damage at level 20. Okay, so they probably nerfed Glacial Cascade. To be fair, it has been ridiculously OP meta forever now. Also, did I skip Blade Vortex? I think I did. I'm sorry, I think I skipped BB earlier. I remember seeing it. No, we talked about it. It was a nerf. Okay, never mind. For the physical spell made me think of it. Glacial Cascade. Alright, Ground Slam. Same thing as Cleave. Melee buffs. I didn't know this. Again. Why is this a hidden stat on everything? You can only hit 20 things at once. But why? Why, GGG? Okay, Hatred buffs, I think, or changes. They reworked Hatred. It now causes you and nearby allies to deal 14% more damage at gem level 1. More cold damage, sorry. Up to 18% more cold damage at level 20. Note that this cold damage multiplies the extra damage granted by the aura. So the skill multiplies itself. Interesting. What's 18% more of 25? Like 4%? So it's 29% more damage. But it also scales any of your other cold damage. Why would they just like... This is just... If this isn't on the gem, I'm going to be mad. Just get rid of this and make this number bigger. Don't make it multiply itself. Just make this number bigger. Okay, so this is a buff for like casters that want to use a cold multiplying thing, but they don't have any physical damage. So if you're just like using a Vortex or a Cold Snap character, or like Ice Spear, Winter Orb, Frostbolt, Freeze Pulse, those type of skills with no phys damage, you still get this 14% more damage or 18% more damage. So that's pretty good. But it's just like, the wording feels completely unnecessary, and they could have just made these numbers bigger. But I guess I guess if you have sources of extra cold damage from other things, they want it to be able to multiply that damage as well. So if you have like Conversion and Shaper Amulet, Shaper Stat Sticks, it'll be better for those type of characters as well. This might be an overall buff to Hatred. I don't know, I'd have to POB it, see how much better that is to scale all the other additional cold damage that you get versus like just getting it from Hatred. We'll see. I think that's a buff overall though. Ice Nova, reduce mana cost, cast faster, slight nerf at level 1, and a pretty heavy nerf at endgame. But now adds cold damage against chilled enemies. Okay, so this makes up for it. The flat damage would just move to here, so they want you to encourage that you chill things. Maybe they want you to use Bone Chill. And now has less damage effectiveness. I don't know if this is a nerf or a buff. I've never really played Ice Nova, but I feel like it's probably going to be basically the same, but it's more thematic for chilled enemies. That's fine. Ice Spear, reduce mana costs, buff the damage at level 1 by quite a bit, actually. That's 50% more damage. And the endgame's more or less the same. Slight buff at endgame. Ice Spear might be good to level with then. And Frostbolt. I could buff that one as well. Incinerate, reduce mana costs. Now gains radius and... Wait, what? Now gains radius and radius per stage as the gem levels. Okay, this is a... I got you. I can read. Up to 5 radius per stage from +4 and 19 radius at max stages from +15. That's pretty huge. Did I skip Ice Trap? My bad. Bigger AoE, bigger damage. That's a 50... Wow. That's a huge buff. Look at this. This is actually... Okay, so Ice Trap has one of my favorite MTXs in the game. Where is it? It's Frost Flower. It's so fucking pretty. And it has the... It's like the AoE is like this big. But if they make it this big, maybe people actually play it. That's a huge buff, though. Like, I played it before. Instead of on my Lightning Trap character, my Infinite Tinkerer. It works really well with Ice Trap, but the AoE is garbage. But they've made it huge AoE, so maybe it'll actually be worthwhile. And the scaling's a lot better, too. That's a huge buff to scaling. But yeah, Incinerate was unchanged at level 1 and buffed at endgame, along with huge AoE radius. Incinerate might be back on the menu then. I like Ignite Incinerate's pretty solid. It just was lacking a little bit of AoE. Full screen Ice Flower is so pretty. The, what's the Elder boss that has the Scourge Arrow stuff? He uses Ice Flower in the fight sometimes, and it's very pretty. Alright, Lightning Spire Trap. Slight nerf and nerfed. Yeah, so the issue with Lightning Spire Trap is that people who are just generic casters are using it for free damage on bosses, which is not the intent of the skill. Like, you shouldn't be using it if you're not a trapper, so they nerfed it a little bit because of those people, I'm assuming. Okay, Lightning Tendrils, reduce mana costs, buff the damage, and buff the damage heavily at level 20. Better AoE, and better AoE at level 20. Better damage effectiveness by quite a bit. That's pretty significant buffs there. Lightning Trap. Did they nerf my Lightning Trap again? They toned it down by like 4, but they gave it a huge buff at endgame. Oh my god. Look at this. Okay. Alright, my starter from last league, my Infinite Tinker, it just got like 30% more damage. Or 40% more damage. Have fun. That's huge. Alright, Lightning Warp. Reduce mana costs. Reduce cast time. Great. Magma Orb. Reduce mana costs. Buffed at level 1 and slightly buffed at level 20. Sure. Buffs to Magma Orb across the board. Fighting Trapper was insane last league. It just got better. Molten Shell. Reduce mana costs. Nobody uses Molten Shell, so that's irrelevant. Orb of Storms. Reduce mana cost. Buffed at level 1 and buffed heavily at level 20. Buffed heavily with damage effectiveness. Are we actually going to see the time of Orb of Storms builds? Is it going to happen? I saw one last league. Self-cast Orb of Storms. They just like T-posed on people. Because when your character casts Orb of Storms, you T-pose. It's so stupid. That's all you do is you just walk up to them and you just start T-posing, but you're doing it really fast. So your character's just like twitching in a circle with around them and they just like twitch until everything dies. It's great. It's a really good skill. I recommend it. Phase Run, reduce mana cost. Projectile Weakness, reduce mana cost. You guys noticing a trend here? Punishment, reduce mana cost. Punishment costs 50 fucking mana. Punishment is the worst curse subjectively in this game. Because it's like, it gives you more melee damage, but it requires the enemy, you curse them, and then they have to hit you with a melee attack before you get the buff. It's just like, in the one-shot the screen meta, they never hit you. So there's never a chance for you to get this multiplier to melee damage. If they made it just apply all the time, melee builds would get a pretty significant buff because they could use this all the time. It's just generic increased damage taken from attacks. But because it's like they have to melee you and actually hit, it makes no sense. Rallying Cry, reduce mana cost. Raise Spectre, reduce mana cost. Reckoning can affect... Again, what? Why? What is this 20 attack limit? Wait, there's a mana cost on Reckoning? Oh wait, no, Rejuvenate. Why is this not split correctly? I was like, Reckoning is a trigger skill when you block. What the fuck is the mana cost? But it's for Rejuvenation Totem. Yeah, when you block with Reckoning, you like hit in a cone with your shield. It's pretty cool. Mana cost at level 20 okay, so they increased the mana cost of Scorching Ray. Oof. But they buffed the damage and they buffed the endgame damage. Okay, so my Scorching Ray Mind Over Matter Trickster build from a couple weeks ago, buffed. And I think they changed it to negative 25% resist instead of negative 24, so slight buff there as well. That's actually a pretty significant endgame buff though. It's like 100 more flat damage per second. Mind Over Matter Trickster. I might play a Trickster for my league start. I haven't decided yet, but it's looking good. Trickster or Sabo again, but I played Lightning Trap last league, so I'd like to do something else. Scourge Arrow now has the Chaos Gem type. I didn't realize it didn't have that. Okay. Seismic Trap, buffed at level 1 and buffed at level 20 and buffed damage effectiveness. Great! Shock Nova, reduced mana cost, faster cast speed, buffed damage and buffed endgame damage, and doubled the damage effectiveness. Shock Nova already has pretty good damage potential. That's actually a significant buff though. Doubling the damage effectiveness is ridiculous. Okay, sure, that's fine. Shockwave Totem, reduced mana costs, buffed the base damage and the in-game damage and the damage effectiveness. Okay. I want them to remove the cap on these though, so you can have like 50 of them again, because I want to drop the base on people. That was funny. Damage effectiveness is how effective any of your damage is. Your flat damage, your percent damage, your increased damage. If it's a lower number, you get less benefits from it. If it's a higher number, you get more benefits from it. So the higher the better, basically. Siphoning Trap was buffed and buffed. Nobody's ever going to use it though because it's bad. Spark, reduced mana cost. Unchanged at level 1 and heavily buffed. No, 20% more at level 20. That's pretty cool. It now hits faster. This is a weird way of wording it. Clears its hit list every 0.66 seconds for 1 second. So that's like when you're playing Spark, you want to like shoot at walls with Pierce. So you pierce through the enemy once, hit the wall, bounce back, hit him again. This means that you can do that faster. So you can like, if they're in a small arena, like with Vaal Glacial Hammer, you can make that little, the Thunder Dome, I think is what we used to call it. You like make a circle of ice and you just vomit projectiles in it and they bounce off the walls. And then just murder the boss. So that's a good buff. Spectral Shield Throw, they made it attack faster and base projectile speed is slightly faster. But they didn't change how shit the mechanic is, so no one's going to play it still. Alright, great. Stormbrand, reduced mana cost. No, wait, buffed mana cost, sorry. Slightly nerfed damage. Very barely slightly nerfed. Like, how much damage did they lose? Like 5% damage? I think they're fine. Stormbrand's gonna be fine, don't worry about it. With all the buffs to the passive skill tree for casters, it doesn't matter. Stormcall, reduced mana cost, buff damage at level 1, and buff damage at endgame, and higher damage effectiveness. Vaal Stormcall meta, here we go, it's time. Increased mana cost of Raging Spirits, increased mana cost of Summoned Skeletons, reduce the mana cost of Tempest Shields, no one cares. Temporal Chains, reduce mana cost. Yeah, this is the same thing as Enfeeble. They separated it into magic and rares so that it's like better against trash and worse against hard enemies. Which is like, means boss fighting's a little bit harder, I guess. Depending on how the curse effectiveness against bosses works. Yeah, that's a slight nerf. Because again, the passive skill tree is getting buffed across the board. Okay, what do we got? Unearth, reduced mana costs. Now deals damage in a small AoE around the projectiles. This is now an AoE spell, okay. Now deals higher, wow, like triple the damage at level 1. No, double the damage at level 1. And buffed at endgame, and higher damage effectiveness, okay. I don't know anybody using Unearth as a main skill. It's usually just a movement skill for Poet's Pen characters, but sure. Oh look, another one of those hidden limits for melee. Why was melee so shit for so long with all of these hidden modifiers? Who would have known? Who would have known? Alright, Volatile Dead, reduced mana costs. Unchanged at level 1 and slightly toned down at level 20. Sure. Very slightly. Like, what is that? Not even 30 damage? Sure. Reduced mana costs on Vortex. Slightly lower base damage at level 1 and slightly lower endgame damage by like 15. No one cares. But let's see, what did we lose? Lost a little bit of dot, a little bit of endgame dot. Okay, that's fine. Slight nerfs to Vortex, but that's fine. No one cares. Vulnerability. Reduced mana cost. Warlord's Mark. Reduced mana cost. Whirling Blades can now affect 40 targets per attack. If you manage to hit Whirling... What? Whirling Blades is not even an AoE skill. It's a line. How the fuck do you hit 20 enemies, much less 40, with Whirling Blades? Why are these limits here? I don't understand. Alright, Winter Orb, what do we get? Do we get a slight nerf? Nope, they buffed level 1, and they slightly nerfed endgame. That's fine. It deserved that. Sure. Alright, Wither, reduce mana cost, great. Vaal skill rebalance. This is interesting. I didn't know they were going to do this part separately. Let's see. Reduce damage at level 1 and reduce damage at level 20. Reduce damage effectiveness. Okay, that's fair. Vaal BV was so fucking strong. I was using it on characters that weren't even spec'd for Vaal BV, just because it was just like free damage on boss fighting. So, it's probably good that they toned that down. Vaal Cold Snap, same limit as the melee stuff, can now affect 40 targets per cast. I don't understand. I need a dev response on why the fuck this was a hidden limit before. Alright, Vaal Detonate Dead, buffed at level 1 and buffed at endgame, and heavily buffed. Holy shit. Vaal DD back on the menu. It's such a big buff, what the heck. Vaal Flame Blast, they changed it to match Flame Blast. I don't remember what it was before, but whatever I said before, it's the same. Fireball, I think, was buffed as well. I think they buffed both of these. So, cool, great. Vaal Impurity, whatever, gives aura effect per gem level, causes you to take 25% less damage of their associated element instead of 25% reduced damage. To any player who doesn't know the ins and outs of the skill mechanics of this game, this sentence is a pile of bullshit that makes literally no sense. I don't even know what that means. There's a difference between less and reduced and increased and more and increased damage taken versus decreased damage dealt. It's just like, what? I don't know what that means. Vaal Lightning Trap was buffed to match Lightning Trap. Great. Vaal RF now grants less damage at level 1 and less damage at level 20. That's fair. Every single caster was using it for free damage. Now they've toned it down because they're buffing everybody else. Hooray! Support Gem Rework. Storm Barrier support has been renamed to Infuse Channeling. No longer grants reduced lightning. I've never seen anybody use Storm Barrier at all. Okay, so no longer gets reduced lightning damage taken. No longer grants power charges when hit. No longer grants reduced damage taken from hits while channeling. Wait, sorry. Now grants reduced damage taken from hits while channeling of types matching the supported skill gems tags. Still gives... What? Dude, this is so hard to read. So if you're using it with a fire support, you get less damage from fire hits. And you still get the generic fizz damage reduction. That's fine. Now grants infusion after channeling for a duration. No. Thank you for the prime sub, Creoso. Now grants infusion. Infusion grants more damage of types matching the supported skill gems tags. So if you're dealing fire damage, you get a more fire damage multiplier. Now causes supported skills to deal more damage. Okay, maybe somebody might actually use it. Before it was just like no damage and some garbage on hit effects. But now it gives you damage and more elemental damage of that type. Actually, if you had a pure fizz, it gives you more fizz damage too. It doesn't say more elemental, it just says more damage. So if you link it to chaos, you get more chaos damage as well. Okay, sure. Arcane Surge Rebalance. I don't know. Okay, so they gave it a more multiplier to the actual gem, so you get 10 to 19% at level 20. And then you also get a more multiplier from Arcane Surge, but it has a slightly higher mana cost to compensate. That's fine. Chain Support, they lowered the less damage multiplier, so that's a significant buff. Instead of losing 50% of your damage, you now only lose 30% of your damage. That's technically 20% more damage, even though it's less. That's still not probably going to get used. Probably not going to get used, because it's still a less modifier. The current meta is like your damage support and then 5 more multipliers. Or your damage support and a quality of life support and then 4 more multipliers. It's just path of more multipliers. For those who don't know what a more multiplier is, it's multiplicative. You have 100k damage and you equip a 10% more damage thing, you have now 110k damage. You equip another one, you have 121k damage. It just multiplies. Increase just adds to the base amounts. Alright, Decay now gives more damage. Okay, they buffed Decay. Interesting. So for the Chaos meta, they actually buffed a pretty powerful Chaos support. That's good. Every single Chaos spell benefits from that. Fork support now causes... Okay, so they did the same thing with Fork as they do with Chain. Ooh, wow, it actually has a 9% more multiplier at level 9, or level 20. It's the same thing though, they took off the 20% less modifier and put it on the skill. That's fine. Innervate now gives more damage and more damage at endgame, and the Innervate buff now lasts for 8 seconds instead of 4. That's a pretty huge buff, actually. My Winterfell character gets buffed by that. I like that, sure. Life Leech no longer grants increased life leech per second based on gem quality. It now causes supported skills to deal 10% increased damage while leeching life at 20% quality. That's really shit, because 10% increased damage is like quality on your or quality on your melee physical damage. No one really cares about that. I don't like it. Mana Leech no longer grants increased mana leech per second based on gems. Same thing. Sure, no one cares about that. No one uses these gems. Like, if they gave them a more multiplier like they did with Arcane Surge, people might actually use these, but they didn't for some reason. Or that Energy Shield Leech gem, it was the same thing. They had a more multiplier on it. This one doesn't. I don't know why. Onslaught now gives you 10% chance on hitting a unique enemy to grant Onslaught for 3 seconds. So if you want permanent Onslaught on any character ever, just like slap in a Stormbrand or like an Orb of Storms linked to Onslaught, and you now have Onslaught on hit for bossing. Cool. You can tick all the boxes in PoB without feeling weird about it. Spell Cascade now causes supported skills to deal 40% less damage. Up from... Okay, so they buffed this a little bit. They took off 10% less damage, sure. Phantasm on kill gets chance to summon a Phantasm when you hit a rare unique enemy. That's good. So this is a buff for single target Phantasm on kill builds. You can gain it when you're hitting a boss. That's nice. Or a rare. Okay, let's get into this crazy shit. Passive tree rebalance. Sniper and nullification cluster has been replaced. Near shadow. Okay, sniper and nullification. This thing, this little blob that everybody hates.
Did someone say excellent? No.
It's up to me.
Thank you for the 15-month resub, Adam. Welcome back. They've replaced it to give damage, proj speed, AoE. Small passives above it give damage, proj speed, and AoE. Okay, so we actually have AoE scaling in more than 2 places on the skill tree now. That's kind of nice. This will be a little bit of an AoE cluster. We have AoE like here, and that's about it. So now it's symmetrical. We have one over here as well to match this one. Cool. Resourcefulness grants evasion rating, energy shield, maximum life, life regen per second. Where in the fuck is that? Okay, great. Is that a new cluster? I don't know where that is. Okay. Well, that's fine. Looks like it's got some words on it. Cool. Mind Drinker cluster near the shadow has been moved slightly south and now shares its entry passives with the shadow's jewel socket. It also gives increased mana regen. It had 2 L's, didn't it? Oh, there's one. My bad. I can't read. Still don't know where it is though. Am I blind? If it's just the new name of this cluster, that would make sense. I'm still missing a letter. No, that's the end of it. Resourcefulness. I think that's just the name of the new thing. I don't see it. Pretty sure that's the name of the new one. Either way, I'm gonna leave it. What's Mind Drinker? I think that's this. Yeah, so they gave this some mana regen. Great. Added Soul Thief cluster, which is where it used to be. Gives evasion rating, energy shield, and spell damage leech to the ES. I think we talked about this. Yeah, so they're adding some more ES leech and ES clusters on the right side of the tree. That's cool. Added the Arcane Swiftness cluster near Ghost Reaver. It gives cast speed while holding a shield, spell damage per block chance. Interesting. Chance to avoid elemental ailments while holding a shield, chance to avoid being stunned, chance to block attack damage. It gives you 34% increased spell damage while holding a shield, cast speed while holding a shield, and block chance. That's not bad. We don't have that many generic spell damage modifiers on the skill tree, so that's kind of cool to see that they're actually showing some specialization for shield casters. Not bad. Static Blows has been moved west 1 passive. No longer gives lightning damage. It gives you shock duration, critical strike chance against shocked enemies, damage if you shocked an enemy recently, and effective shock.
No.
Woo.
Thank you for the prime sub. I'm actually going to pause alerts though for a sec. Thank you for that. Other passives give a total of increased shock chance, crit strike chance against shocked enemies, damage. Okay, so this cluster right here is just being buffed somewhere. Where is it? What's it called? Static Blows. The hell is static blows? Is that a new cluster as well in this area somewhere? I think that's what this is. They're reworking it. I can't find any of these things. There it is. Nobody uses this. Yeah, that's probably why they're buffing it. I've never seen anybody take this cluster. Cool. Great. New notable near Eldritch Battery, Arcane Expanse. Gives spell damage, AoE, and int. Near here, so like probably right here maybe. Or like down. Okay. Some generic spell damage stuff's not gonna hurt. And some more AoE for spellcasters, everybody wants that. New cluster north of the Witch, Enigmatic Reach. Gives attack speed with staves, cast speed while wielding a staff, AoE per power charge, AoE while wielding a staff, and more AoE with staves. That's a lot of AoE. They seem to be just like throwing AoE at spellcasters, which I guess is cool. Although it doesn't really do that much, but we'll see. New cluster next to Instability north of the Witch, which would be like here somewhere, right there. Probably here maybe. 5% chance to block spell damage with the staff, spell damage with the staff. Unholy Might on block for 3 seconds. That's weirdly specific. Block attack damage while wielding a staff. Passives in the cluster grant spell damage while wielding a staff. Chaos res. What the fuck? These feel like such random bonuses. Chaos res, chance to block spell damage, attack damage, Unholy Might on block. Like what? What does that mean? Okay. Mind Barrier is no more. Farewell, Mind Barrier. Why? I just made a character that was using this today. Why would you nerf my spell block? It's a really bad cluster, to be honest, but 60% ES from Equip Shield isn't that bad. F. Pepe hands. Alright, new cluster next to Cruel Preparation north of the Witch, Arcane Guardian. God, these are such weird things. Defensive and offensive nodes. Block spell damage holding a shield, energy shield from equipped shield, spell damage if you blocked recently. Other passives give 42% spell damage, block spell damage, and okay, so they're just moving it into a new cluster that's better than this. I guess that's fine. New cluster next to Pain Attunement, Lucidity. Notable gets 40% chance to avoid being stunned while channeling, damage with channeling, minus mana cost of channeling skills, attack and cast speed with channeling, and movement and damage with channeling skills. So that's like, where is that? Right here, probably? Next to Pain Attunement. Cool. Dark Arts has been moved to Between the Witch and Templar, has been completely reworked. Dark Arts is this, the dual wield cast speed nodes. Grants 5% increased cast speed while dual wielding, attack and cast speed if you used a movement skill recently. Poet's Pen, mana regen if you used movement skill recently, dex int. Cooldown recovery speed of movement skills. Yeah, this is 100% for Poet's Pen builds. Holy shit. That's so good. What? Look at all these things for Poet's Pen. Are they gonna gut Poet's Pen later? I just haven't seen it yet. Dual wield is like, cooldown recovery rate on Lightning Orb is pretty insane. And Unearth. Yeah, I haven't read that far yet. Alright, Dark Arts. What do we got? New cluster north of the Witch, Mysticism. Block, attack, damage. Okay, so we just got a bunch of dual wielding shit here. Same as the staff, same as the shield. Singular Focus. Fizz rate, we already saw this. This was spoiled earlier. Elemental Wheel west of the Templar. We did this in the previous video, I should say. Elemental Wheel west of the Templar has been reworked. There are now 2 wheels, a big one and a small one. The small one contains Divine Judgment, which gives you burning damage, elemental damage, 4% Ellie Pen, any damage. So we get global Ellie Pen on the Templar side. That's pretty good. Normally right now it's just attack pen. So we can actually get global pen. I like it. 3 small passes on that wheel grant LE damage, burning damage, AoE. So this is an RF buff as well as a generic elemental caster buff. You get LE pen. 5% LE pen's pretty solid. Big outer wheel has 2 notables. Fizz damage, LE damage. Fizz is extra fire. Okay. Fire spells have conversion to fire. That's really weird. So they gave Templar a bunch of holy spells with like 50% conversion on it, but they're also going to give it conversion in the skill tree. You get, wow, the heck? 5 is extra lightning as well. So you can, if you have a lightning fire spell, which I believe some of the divine skills are, you get an extra 30% conversion and 10% Fizz is extra damage. That's pretty solid, actually. I like that. New cluster between minion instability and LE overload, Light Eater. It gives you 20% maximum total recovery per second from energy shield leech. So every energy shield character is probably going to take this node. You get spell leech as ES, increased spell damage while on full ES, and then some more ES from the minor clusters. Cool. New cluster next to Arcane Vision, Ethereal Feast. Gives you spell damage, leads to his energy shield, maximum total recovery per second, attack, blah blah blah. Same as the last one, but a different place. So it's like right here, and I think like right here or right here-ish, maybe. Cool. Heart of Flame, Heart of Ice, Heart of Thunder now give you 0.2% of their respective elements leech as energy shield. That's all these dudes up here. So that's a cool buff. You get to leech specific damage as a yes now. Ash, Frost, and Storm was changed. Gives you higher damage, reduced reflected damage taken, buffed as well. And now all res. Okay. So you can get 12% all res from this cluster. That's actually really good for leveling. And higher damage. That's a good buff for this cluster. I took this on my generic caster starter in the starter command. So that's a good buff for that guy. Blunt Force Trauma moving out. Serpent Stance has gotten its own cluster and filled it with used IKEA furniture and staff stats. What? The notable is unchanged, but has 3 preceding passes, which grant total 60% increase crit while wielding a staff and multi with staff. Cool. Firewalker, Lightning Walker, blah 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 were increased by 5% with some cast speed buffs. Cool. That's these little guys. These were buffed slightly. Nice. Mental Rapidity now gives more cast speed. I talked about this, I think. I said these were probably going to get buffed because they're pretty unpopular. Looks like they're buffing that. The main node and the minimum nodes. Cool. Explosive Impact was buffed. 10% phase converted to fire, so the holy skills get even more conversion for free from the skill tree. I don't get it, dude. Why didn't you just make them full conversion if they're just gonna get, what is that, 40% from the tree and 50 from the base? Strange. All right, Stormweaver, some other garbage. Look, cold converted to phase converted to cold on cold, and lightning gets converted to lightning. I don't get it. All the conversion skills on the tree now, which I guess is good. I mean, to be fair. The only conversion that we have right now is like way the fuck down here with attack skills. So it's like if you want to convert, you have to take this. So I guess that's good to have it up here somewhere. It makes sense. I just didn't get it at first, but they really seem to be wanting to push this section of the tree as Fizz's alley, so I guess that's fine. Snowforge gives all res, or fire and cold res, this little dude. Okay, what else does it get? Crit multi with fire skills and crit strike chance with cold skills. So if you're a fire cold skill, you get both. Hooray! Nimbleness now gets crit multi for spells and crit strike chance for spells. That's, I believe, this little dude. That's a good buff, actually. We need more multi clusters. Like, there's not that much multi on the tree, so it's good to have another cluster or two every once in a while. A bunch of generic staff multi stuff as well. Okay, let's get into the big stuff. Ascendancy rebalances. Trickster now gets you power, frenzy charges each second while channeling. That's a huge buff, actually. Okay. Ghost Dance has been reworked. It causes you to gain a ghost shroud every second, up to a maximum of 3/3. You get 3% reduced damage taken per gross. Wow, I keep saying gross shroud. I'm sorry, Shroud. I love you. You get 9% reduced damage taken. When you get hit, you lose a shroud and you recover energy shield equal to 5% of your evasion rating. 5% chance to evade, 10% increased movement speed with the energy shield. So if you had like 50k evasion, which is a lot for an ES character to have. What do you get out of that? Like 500 back when you take a hit? That's not bad. Escape Artist no longer prevents you from being stunned if you've been hit recently. If you haven't been hit recently, and no longer grants 8% reduced damage taken. So they just kind of move the reduced damage taken over here. I don't know if I like that. It now gives you attack and cast speed per Ghost Shroud, cannot be stunned while you have Ghost Shrouds, and 20% chance to dodge spell hits if you have Energy Shield. And they buffed the more damage. This is a pretty big buff, actually, for Trickster. Maybe that's my starter. I've been debating on it. I was like, do I want to do Elementalist or Trickster or Inquisitor? I might do Trickster. That sounds fun. But I need to get ES gear, so I have to like level up his life base and then get ES stuff later. That's cool, though. Sanctify. Alright, Inquisitor changes. Sanctify has been renamed and reworked. It's called Sanctuary. Now causes consecrated ground you create to apply 10% increased damage taken to enemies. That's a more multiplier. You have consecrated ground while you're stationary, so that's just a huge overall buff. You get the crit and the life regen all the time. And you get 15% mana regen per second. Someone might actually take the consecrated ground side of the Inquisitor. Nobody takes the top side of it. Because it's like, it's just not good. Whereas the Inquisitor always goes like damage, damage, damage. Nobody ever takes this side. So it's cool that they're actually buffing it a fair amount. What else? Pious Paths are reworked. You get 20% increased stack cast speed while on consecrated ground from 25%. So that's a slight reduction, but it gives you immunity to ailments to you and your allies. 200 ES regen per second while on consecrated ground, and it lingers for 4 seconds. 200 ES regen? For a life-based character, that's fucking ridiculous. Like, you're only gonna have, like, maybe a couple hundred ES. That's such a huge defensive buff. Alright, cool. Ascendant Slayer no longer grants damage while leeching, now grants 30% AoE. So they buff the AoE, but they reduce the maximum recovery per life leech. I don't exactly understand how the life leech stuff works. I read like a big post on Reddit about it, and I think it's like overall slightly toned down, but still just as good. It just requires you to hit faster to get the leech stacks up, instead of just a couple big hits. I don't know, it's weird. Leech instances are stupid, and I never want to make a video trying to explain that. Okay, item balance. Here comes all the nerfs. Okay. Enchantments have their own mod slot. They no longer use the implicit mod slot. That's an overall buff across the board for everybody, especially if you want to use a bone helmet with spiritual command, so your minion damage affects you. You can get 40% increased damage on every single character, as well as a helmet chain. Pretty good. Oh, look, speaking of bone helmets, they've nerfed them across the board. All right, so they're legacy now. If you have a 40% or 30% or higher bone helmet, it is now legacy. Bless it to 40 and set it aside. 3-tone boots were lowered. Jesus, all right. Legacy, every 2-tone boot is now legacy. Stormburst enchantment was changed. No legacy items there. Sources which provide aspect of the avian or aspect of the cat now have the aspect tracked, even when it's no longer equipped. What? Makes it possible to sustain one portion of the aspect's alternating buffs. I think that's a nerf to rules for overall. You can't maintain all of it all the time. I think you can't have permanent power frenzies now, if I'm reading that right. Slight oof. Alright, staff mod, which could appear on shaper saves, now gets more lightning damage per int. Okay, so they buffed that slightly, because it's a two-handed weapon. They're actually buffing two-handed here. Two-handed buffs! Holy ass! Okay, next thing. You can no longer roll or craft more than one Fizz taken as Fire Cold Lightning mod on a single item. Aw. That sucks. I can't make my Winter Orb helmet double Fizz taken as X. It's currently like this. Fizz taken as fire, but it's an incursion suffix. I was gonna put Fizz taken as fire implicit on it, but I can't now. I'll have to put +1 AoE gems or something. That sucks. Same goes for physical converted to Fire Cold Lightning. You can now craft the conversion. Oh. Oh. You can only have one, dude. Where's my investments from last league? You want to see something stupid that I made? I made these! Double conversion garbage! And now they're all legacy. Oh man, I'm good at this game. Good call, me. 50% conversion glows, we did it. Okay, what's next? You can no longer craft 3 veiled mana mods, which are able to raise an ammo that's all in the same item. Each one will preclude the others. RIP. You can no longer craft multiple mods which affect the item's quality on the same item. Each will preclude the others. Oh my god, all the double modded quality bullshit from League with like 50-something quality. It's all legacy. Divine it to perfect and don't touch it. Fire Burst will now hit 40 targets. Why? This fucking limit everywhere. They buff the damage effectiveness. Cool. Fire Burst is a really cool like side skill. You get it from an essence, and you can put it on weapons, and it applies to like everything that you hit. Where is it? Fire Burst. 10% to cast on hit. So you just hit really fast. You can just vomit these everywhere all the time. Cool. Cartography Scarabs now give less chance to find maps. Looks like a little bit less than half nerfed. Sulfite. Serious nerf on Sulfite. Like a third of what it used to give. But they buffed it so it's always 3 nodes. So I think this is about the same overall. I think we're going to be fine with that one. Since every time you find Nico, it's guaranteed to have 3 Sulfite nodes. This should be fine. It should even out. Because, I mean, if you think about it, you had a 1 in 3 chance of getting all 3. So it's the same, I think, overall. Divination Scarabs were nerfed by 50%. Good. Improved the description of Tectonic Slam enchant. Sure. Added some corruption outcomes, which increases aura effect of the new aura skills. So you can get, like, Malevolence and Zealotry aura effect. That's cool. Okay. Unique item balance. Here comes the more nerfs. Cloak of Tom or Isley can once again be obtained. You used to only be able to buy Cloak of Tom or Isley from a level 8 master. but they got rid of that. It's a ES-based chess piece that makes magic items drop identifieds for animate weapon characters, so you can animate all the blue weapons. But they changed it, so that's interesting. Okay. Gluttony of Corruptions, Gluttony of Elements now grants curse immunity while active. This was a nerf intended for the immunity occultist Blade Vortex characters. You can't temp change yourself to make the duration last even longer. It's a good nerf. Immunity builds are fucking stupid, and this skill shouldn't exist, but it does, so they're trying to make it usable for other characters without completely killing it. Death Oath now has 25% more damage per second. That's really good. Buff. Ice Storm has a faster cast time and was buffed with crits. Rippling what the hell is Rippling Thoughts? Is that a shield? Harbinger shield, I think? I think that's a buff. I don't know what that is exactly. Voice of the Storm, Inquire of the Storm, Lightning Bolt has higher damage effectiveness. Cool. All's Uprising has... They just reworded it. The crit strike changes, so it makes more sense. No legacy stuff there. New versions of All's Uprising can now appear with the new aura mods, so Zealotry and Malevolence. Cool. Kingmaker now has... And nearby allies have 50% increase... Or, wow, what am I saying? Nearby allies have 50% crit multi, fortify, and physical damage. This is huge, actually. For those of you who don't know what Kingmaker is, it's like Soul Taker combined with a dagger. You like vendor them with a fusing, and you get a two-handed axe back. You can put this on your Animate Guardian. So you get 50% multi and fortify from your Animate Guardian. That's fucking ridiculous. Like, fuck the Aura bot. Put it on your Animate Guardian all the time. Heartbreaker, yeah, that's the dagger. It's not that hard to make, but that's like... Holy fuck. Animate Guardian just got a huge buff. Alright. Tomb Fist no longer grants attack speed. Existing versions will lose the attack speed. Okay, so slight nerf. Wait, you mean like right now? If I divine one right now, it loses it? I don't have one on hand. Somebody divine a Tomb Fist, let me know. They don't want you to divine it perfectly right now. It doesn't do it right now? Oh, okay. It says existing. I guess it's not. It's when the patch hits, whatever. Lore Weave is reduced. Okay, so, oh, Jesus Christ. All of my Lore Weaves are legacy. Every single, dude, Divine Orbs are gonna be so expensive in the next 5 days. Good thing I bought 1,000 of them today. This will be fun. Alright, new versions of Watcher's Eye can appear with mods that interact with the new aura skills. Cool. This is a huge nerf, by the way. Like, if you're not aware, this is a pretty big nerf. Spreading Rot no longer causes enemies hindered by Blight to take increased chaos damage, which is a more multiplier, and now causes Blight to inflict Wither. Okay, so you no longer have to use Spreading Rot on every chaos build. It's helpful, but you don't need it anymore. That's cool. Poet's Pen now triggers spells socketed with it if you attacked with that specific weapon. Previously, dual-wielding Poet's Pen would mean you trigger spells from both with each attack. That's a nerf. I never even realized that. I've only played one Poet's Pen character. I thought it was like one and then the other. So that's definitely a nerf, but it deserves it, so it's fine. Clarify the description on the apple. I love the apple. It's the closest thing I have to a lemon, but, you know. Sure. Updated description on Soul Tether to reflect the new leash mechanics. Doesn't change the function. Cool. Cinder Swallow Urn now applies a custom Ignite visual during Flask Effect. Okay, so if you have anything that's Legacy, I recommend you divine it if you can, and then just set it aside. It'll jack up in price over the next couple months, but right now everybody's going to panic sell all of them, so keep that in mind. If you want to make some real currency in Standard, just hold on to them for a while and sell them when they're higher priced. World Changes. Lily Roth's gems are now sorted into skills and supports. She now sells Added Chaos and Detonate Mines. That's a pretty big quality of life, actually. Detonate Mines is really important, because a lot of people like having cast when damage taken Detonate Mines on their miners. That's cool. I wonder if they're going to take them off the drop table then, because they're just annoying to drop. Probably not. All the other gems are still in the drop table. Helena no longer follows a player into the Lord's Labyrinth to read crafting recipes, as she hasn't passed Izara's trials. My immersion, it's so good! She can't enter the labyrinth. She didn't do the trials. Whatever. Crafting unlocks from the properties related to the Pale Court, as well as the unlock from the Pale Court encounter, can now be used up to 6 times. That's actually pretty cool. So you can sell these when you do your Pale Court run. You get a recipe. You can now sell it to 5 other people that come in after you. You can get your drops, get this thingy, and then just like take all of them. Okay, monster changes. Bosses with reduced curse effect now have less reduced effective curses. So that's a buff for every curse across every boss. Hooray! Spectered Blood Chieftains now have a cooldown on the power charge generation roar. That's a nerf for Spectre builds. Big oof. Nobody plays crit Spectres though, so it doesn't really matter. Due to Templar budget cuts and performance concerns, but mostly fiscal responsibility, many of the Blackguard Jaegers in the Ascent have lost their capes. No capes. No capes! Alright, Master changes. Jun is now Master. She sells hideout decorations. You can advance Jun's hideout level by defeating ranked Syndicate members. Jun's Atlas objectives will now begin appearing on the Atlas. The maps on the Atlas in Xana's shop are now sorted by tier. Cool. Also, when you find Jun in Standard for the first time, she will unlock all of your Veiled mods. So you can actually like craft your Veiled mods once the league started. No capes. Alright, Betrayal Changes. Areas which contain Jun will most likely have 3 separate encounters. The Mastermind encounter has been made easier, simpler, and clarified. That I read that completely weirdly, I'm sorry. Mastermind Pillar Surges activate slower. Cool. Volatile Skeletons will no longer spawn in graveyards with an active green fire effect. I did this fight one time. It was like not worth running at all. I did it once, did it deathless, but like I have no idea what any of this stuff means. I'm assuming it just means it's all easier to tell what's going on, so you can actually like figure it out faster instead of just dying. Haku on research duty now gives items that can exceed 20% quality up to 30%. Cool. Haku's chests while an escort now give more and better items. Great. Aisling now gives jewelry with 2 veiled mods. Okay. It that fled on fortification duty now gives more rare abyssal jewels and always gives a Stygian vise at rank 3. So you can farm Stygians without spamming abyss. That's kind of nice. It that fled now gives more splinters. Janus gives more quality currency items. Janus now gives more Paredes coins, more currency shards. Verici gives more and better quality gems. This is just like buffs across the board. Verici gives more currency items that manipulate sockets, so fusings and jewelers and chromes. Vegan's chests now give more and better items. Veiled items drop more frequently. Because it's like less often that you fight them, they're just buffing everything. Several veiled mods now have fewer tiers. Lower tiers contribute more towards unlocking higher tiers. However, it will on average take more unveils to unlock the highest tier. That's a nerf. I don't like that. They should have made them easier to max out. I guess, I don't know. It depends on who you talk to. Some people like the fact that it took a long time to max it out. Some people didn't. It's hard to tell. It that fled's Veiled mod, non-chaos extra chaos, has been split into physical as extra... Wow. I can't read. Physical added as chaos, lightning added as chaos, cold added as chaos, and fire added as chaos, and the values have been adjusted. More powerful versions of these modifiers can now appear in the basic mod pool on weapons and shields at higher levels. Okay, so not even on Shaper and Elder stuff, just basic mods. That's interesting. Fizz's extra stuff. It doesn't say anything about the current non-chaos as chaos mods going legacy. I assume they most likely will. We'll see. +1 maximum totem mods has been removed from the crafting pool and put on the Shaper mod pool for shields. That's pretty big nerf. You used to be able to put them on Elder mod shields, but now you can't. You have to roll them on Shaper shields. Cost of crafting Veil items has been adjusted. Hopefully it's less exalts and more chaos and divines. Lastly, it was like everything that was good was 1 to 3 exalts, which caused exalt prices to fucking skyrocket because everybody was using exalts for crafting. But hopefully they've thought about that. Next one, Azurite Mine. You're less likely to find fossils at depths shallower than 58. Hey, they fixed it. They no more low-level delve farming. That's good. You're actually getting rewarded for going deeper. Hooray! Areas which contain voltaxic sulfite are now highly likely to contain 3 veins. This may not be the case for areas which also contain shrines and essences. So you should get 3, but sometimes you'll get 2 or 1, depending on how much shit's in the map. Speedrunning 59? God damn it. Stop it. Prophecy changes. A new prophecy that guarantees a syndicate encounter. Cool. Atlas of Worlds has been shuffled. Maps have been changed. Most maps have been changed tier and location. Atlas objectives have a higher chance to appear. Improved the visual and layout of Caldera for new mini-bosses. Hideouts will no longer appear where Monstrous Treasure has triggered. Why? Why would you do that? That's just a nerf. What is it? Why? You don't have to do that. Alright, bonuses granted to upgraded breachstone areas from It That Fled have been reduced. Tull Ash and Zoss breachstones have had their experiences reduced to 100% from 250%. Uldental caps at 150 from 300. Chayula caps at 200 from 350. So they did some pretty huge nerfs across the board for pure breachstone because they're bullshit and they deserved it. They also reduced the pack size across the board, so that's even less XP and even less loot.
They've reduced the level across the board for even less XP and worse loot. Updated a number of Grandmasters and Hall Grandmasters. Hey, I asked for a resubmission for Spider Queen, and I didn't get one. I would have loved to update her. What the fuck, Richard? I'll ask again this next league. Maybe I'll get one next league. I want to add some new skills. She's been out of date for like 3 leagues now. They keep nerfing her, and I can't make it stop. Okay, Zana map device stuff. I think we already saw this. We got Nemesis back. We got Beyond back. We still have Breach Harbinger. We don't have Abyss anymore, which kind of sucks. We don't have Brandis anymore, which kind of sucks, but all the other good stuff is there. Early on, I recommend using Shaping tier 1 to 2 and alternate of the same tier to help get you through your Atlas. Like if you're stuck in a specific map that you've completed, like say you only have one tier 5 completed, just spam this for that tier 5 so it gives you other random ones. That'll be good. And then if once you get out of that and you want to get higher tier stuff, then you can start shaping your top tiers so you get like, instead of a T5 map, you can get a T10 out of it, you know? It'll help you drop maps. It's good for you. Yeah, Nemesis, you can chance Ancient Orb. Headhunters again. Great. In the Nemesis maps from Zana only. Bloodlines is good for map sustain. Ambush is kind of shit. Essence they've buffed so it always has at least 3 essences, which is pretty huge. You pay 1C per essence proc, so on higher tier maps you could potentially get some pretty good essence farming. Like we might actually see people selling bulk essences, which is nice. Breach, you get 2 additional breaches, so 2C per breach. Hopefully you can make that profit back. That's a pretty low investment. If it's a big wide open map, breaches are great. If it's a closed map, I recommend like Harbinger or Bloodlines. Beyond for 4C. They've also changed this so that the rare or the unique monsters in Beyond, like Abaxith and whatnot, they can actually drop maps now as well. So if you want to spam this for some map sustain, if you have high enough density in the map and you can actually reliably spawn bosses, those bosses can drop maps now, so that's cool. Mod tiers, user interface improvements. Mod tiers displayed with the advanced mod description key now display their tier based on what the item type can reach. This is important. I always bitch about this. Like, if you look at this life, this is a perfect mirrored belt, by the way, but it says it's tier 4 life. It's not. It's perfect tier 1 life, but because it looks at the tiers of everything across the board, chess pieces go up to 129 life, so 99 is T4, and then 100 to 109 is T3, 110 to 119 is T2, 120 to 129 is T1. It's stupid. It shouldn't work like that. The slot should determine the number, and now it does. So next week, this will actually say it's tier 1. Great. The crafting bench now displays all mods, not just the mods you have unlocked. Oh god. So I have a complaint with this because the map, this thing, like, it lags like crazy. You see that lag right there? When I opened it, it like freezes and puts me at 0 FPS. Every time you put an item in here and you take it back out, it'll do that. They're just making it display even more mods. It's gonna be so much. Look at my FPS. Like, that is not normal. It does that every single time. So if they make it have every single mod all the time, it's gonna get worse, not better. I thought they were gonna fix that. There's minimap icons for the stash. This is actually pretty huge. For some reason, nobody can ever find my stash, even though it's like right here. But that'll help people find it, hopefully. You can now teleport to party members in the Aspirants Plaza. Okay. That's cool for lab farmers. Great. Added more information to the master level pop-up. Cool. Item filters can now filter out shaped and elder items. Oh my god. That's such a huge buff. But it also means that I'm never going to see my I-86 Driftwood Shaper Wand, because everybody's going to filter out the bad bases. Please don't filter out your Driftwood Wands. I really want an I-86 Shaper's Driftwood Wand. Pepe hands. But yeah, you can actually filter out the garbage bases now, so that's kind of cool. I'll be able to filter out like really shit elder weapons. Like, when you're in an I-86 zone, you don't want to see every single elder item that drops, you just want the good bases. Yeah, I can edit my filter, but the entire rest of the player base generally uses Neversink's filter. I don't know if you guys realize how much of an effect he has on the market. Like, if you use his strict, super, semi-strict, super strict filters, like, anything he filters out by default, most players never see it because they don't change their filter. So he can completely sway the market. Like, when Energy Shield was first nerfed, whether or not he did this intentionally, I don't know, probably not, but he took off the ES bases from the drop tables. They didn't show up in the loot filters. So, like, it just like, nobody had Energy Shield Gil for sale on the market because he just took them off the filters because they weren't considered good anymore. So if you wanted to play an Energy Shield build, you basically had to craft them all yourself because nobody picked up an ID'd rares. It's the same thing with like the price of div cards and stuff. If like at the beginning of the league, if they're high, people set their filter at the beginning of the league. They don't ever change it, so they don't update the economy prices. You need to update your filter like every week or two if you want to stay up to date with the economy stuff on Filter Blade. Don't do it once for the whole league. Keep updating it. Just update the prices. There's economy modules on Filter Blade. You can like update it based on whatever the current prices are, so it fixes all the stuff that you're not seeing. If it suddenly becomes valuable, his filter adjusts to it. You update your filter, it makes that item drop as valuable again. Okay, quest rewards, where all the gems come from. I don't want to read this, but you can get them all from Act 3 and Act 6 and Act 10. Cool. Alright, ooh, PvP balance. That's new. Let me take a drink real quick. Spells triggered from cast on crit and cast on melee kill have their damage scaled based on attack speed. T value, yay! T value from cluster trap. T value from multiple trap. T value, big T value from chain. T value from LMP. T value from GMP. T value from spell cascade. T value from Valley. T value ball lightning. T value magma orb. Dude, off-screen magma orb PvP builds are so cancer. You can hit across the entire Sarn arena with enough chains, and they can't even see the projectiles. They just die. T value, T value, T value. Oh my god, they actually gave T value to new skills right away. This never happens. Normally they release a patch with new skills in it. They don't get any scaling for like a year. So you can just one-shot anybody in the game with your new skill forever. Like when Vortex first came out. Oh my god. Before the AoE nerfs, you had like a screen-wide Vortex that insta-killed anybody that went into it. That was the meta for like a good year. That's one of the reasons why I quit playing PvP, because this Vortex and Scorching Ray were so fucking broken. And Explosive Arrow. You couldn't block Explosive Arrow before. It was secondary damage. I used to PvP all the time. That's the only reason Spider Queen exists, is because of PvP. Alright, bug fixes. Dual wielding smite. Sure, cosmetic bug, no one cares. Fixed bugs with fortifications that are appearing in unreachable locations. That's good. Fix the bug which causes social worship to appear as if it were only using a single hand to attack when it was in fact alternating, so you couldn't main hand only anymore. Sure. Prevented a bug, or fixed a bug with Tukohama War Herald from dealing damage to Syndicate. I don't know. Fixing a bug which causes any rebels in the Azurite mine to appear to have benches when they don't. Fix the bug which should allow you to kill Katarina multiple times. She fucking deserves it though. Alright, fix the bug with some other shit, no one cares. Fix the bug with... I don't want to read any of this. I don't think any of this matters. If you guys have any questions, now is a good time to ask. I'm just going to skim this real quick. Fixed a bug which causes players to take fire damage from burning ground if they had increased aura effect. What? What? Hatred buff or nerf? Depends on your character. I think it's an overall buff though. Explain why the Masters betrayed us. I didn't pay attention to any of the lore last week. I have no idea. So starting build, probably going to be some kind of trickster. I'm not 100% yet. Melee builds? No. Melee buffs next league, 3.7. We didn't expect anything really this league. They just kind of up the enemies hit a lot of them. Whenever MF build's still going to be viable, completely unchanged. There were no quant changes. There were no abyssal jewel changes. There were no anything on the bottom side of the tree changes, so it doesn't matter. Arc Totem still viable? Yep, completely fine. A little bit slightly nerfed, but they should be fine. Have they fixed the skip tutorials button? No. Thoughts on Blight? It was buffed pretty heavily. Go for it. Can't craft multi-mods. You probably haven't unlocked it yet. I can do it here if you need it in a sec. Explain why they gutted Slayer Leech. I don't think they did. I think they just rechanged the leech mechanics to be more easily understandable, but they made it worse. Is Winter Orb still fine? Yes, it was slightly toned down. Anything I would change my Lightning Trapper? No, they buffed the fuck out of Lightning Trap. It's just better overall. If anything, I would just get more life on it instead of like as much damage, because they buffed the damage on it pretty heavily. Where is it? I could have just Control F'd it. Lightning Trap, like they buffed it from about 1200 to 1400 damage at endgame, and they gave it huge scaling as well, so it's even better. I mean, 204 Exalted Orbs from Loreweave? Yeah, I mean, you should have sat on them for like a couple days, but you know. New crafts unlocked from Betrayal, not Merger Standard. When the league ends, I'm sorry, when the league goes core, when the patch hits on Friday, all of your Veiled mods will be available in Standard, but you have to wait for the patch to hit. Consecrated Path is unchanged. It does not mean that. It gets the buff from Consecrated Ground, the increased crit strike chance from Consecrated Ground, yeah. What about Shock Nova Trapper? They buff Shock Nova, it should be better. People panic, they're gonna fail. Yeah, but if they're legacy, they're just gonna go up over time. You can panic sell right now if you want, but I wouldn't. I'm just gonna sit on mine. I'm gonna go through my stash tabs, and take out all my legacy shit. Anybody else? Keep asking questions. We can do like a Q&A section for this bit. Last tick of world changes. Oh, so when you do the Pale Court, normally you complete it, you click the crafting recipe, and then it goes away. Now you can bring in 5 other people afterwards. Like you can kill the boss, get the crafting recipe, and then bring in more people to the party so they can get it as well. You can sell it now, basically. How I feel today? I'm pretty good. My voice is shot because I've been talking for an hour, but you know. I'll take it if you don't want it, Regret. Why do you want the ID6 wand? Because it's a meme, and I want to make a mirror to your caster wand out of the shittiest base possible. Are we going to side Reflect with Instant Leech? Instant Leech and Reflect, like, it doesn't work the way you think it does. If you hit something, you take the damage before you get healed by your leech. So if you one-shot yourself with Instant Leech, you're still going to one-shot yourself. It doesn't keep you alive from that. What kind of trickster build seems interesting? Hybrid ES evasion character. Caster crit E3 knives. They buff the damage on EK pretty heavily, so you should be fine. Lots of Vortex Cold Snap Occultist. I believe it was slightly toned down, but it should be the same, if not better. Similar skill to Tectonic Slam. Ground Slam. Earthquake. Consecrated Path Cleave, something like that. They're all pretty similar, honestly. Is Indigon can be viable? Yeah, it's fine. You can still play it. Would you recommend Stormman for Uber League? Uber Elder Killer. They toned it down slightly, but it should be fine. You're just gonna have to invest a little bit more into damage. Cursebot is nerfed, but Aura slightly isn't. Sort of. Cursebot was buffed against trash, nerfed against bosses, but bosses' curse effect was lowered, so it's probably about the same. The Stricter seem OP now. No, but it seems slightly better. What do you think about rerunning Pale Court for blah blah blah? I don't know what you mean by that. 9 lightning trap skill recommend for starter. You can play any spell as a trapper and you'll be fine. If you do the starter command, I have a generic spellcaster build guide. I'll link it in the description of the YouTube video as well. But it's just like any caster will be able to use that skill tree. Trickster Incinerate, sounds good. Incinerate was buffed, Trickster was buffed, why not? What is added damage effectiveness? So damage effectiveness is just like literally how effective any amount of damage that you get is. So if you have like, for example here, Vaal Detonate Dead, if you had 100 flat fire damage, it becomes 150 on the actual skill, and now it becomes 200. If you have a bunch of increased damage, it gets multiplied by that as well. I think EK Nova will come back. I mean, you can still stat stick it, and they buff the damage pretty heavily, so maybe. Elemental Exposure, it's just the way of wording changed. They changed like the negative resistance stuff from this and Frostbomb and Scorching Ray to just be worded as exposure, so it has a keyword. It's the same thing. Crit strike chance changes. What gets worse gets better. Every crit build gets better. Every non-crit build doesn't give a fuck. Essence Drain, Soul Leech, they got better, yeah. Go for it. It's not penetration. They stack together differently. What if something goes best with the lightning trap? There's a lightning trap build guide in the build command. It's called Infinite Tinkerer. Is it worth it to try Castle Channeling, Flame Blast, Firestorm? I mean, you could, like, the thing about spells is you can just take out that link if you don't like Flame Blast, Castle Channeling. Just play it. If you don't like it, take out the link and do something else. Crit builds as a starter aren't a good idea, right? You can do that. It doesn't hurt anything, but you're probably going to be LE overload while leveling until you have some actual crit gear. Does Trickster have to play ES? No. You can play Evasion ES, or Life ES Hybrid, you know, whatever. Tomb Fist will probably still be best in slot. Yeah, they just removed the attack speed, which doesn't fucking matter. The 10% more damage is the important thing from the Intimidate. Still need Assassin's Mark, no reason not to. Any other last minute questions? Is it worth it to farm Tabula? Do you want a Tabula? How long was this passionate video? An hour and 25 minutes so far. Want to build an Aurabot, a Cursebot? Which one's better for all groups? Aurabot's generally the first thing people ask for. If they already have an Aurabot, then they call for a Cursebot. But if you want to be accepted in the most groups, I'd recommend Aurabot. All of this will be on YouTube after this if you missed anything, don't worry. We'll probably have somebody timestamp it as well. It's possible to make starter build with new chaos skills. Their numbers look good, you should be fine. Is ED still viable as well? Blah blah blah. Yes, they buffed it across the board. Thank you for answering questions, being a cool dude, no problem, man. I'm doing my best to convey some type of knowledge. I don't know everything that's going on, but I know some things. Anything else? We'll do a couple more minutes of Q&A and then I'll have to cut the video. How do Wave of Conviction look? pretty solid actually. The video looks good. There's no numbers in here for it, but it looked good in the video, so it should be fine. Any changes to Necromancer? Slight buffs across the board for like Convocation and mana costs. Convocation buff is pretty huge for summoners. They have the cooldown on Convocation, so you can call back your minions a lot faster. When will my starter build list come out? When we get a passive skill tree? Actually, we already have that. I could probably do that now. I can start working on that after this video. Surprised that no changes to Toxic Caustic Arrow? Nope, not at all. They didn't seem broken in the meantime. Any tips for somebody starting late in League like me? Just play the game, dude. It doesn't matter when you start as long as you have fun. Is it better to wait? Yeah, I wouldn't dump sell everything right now. Just hold on to legacy items for like a week or two if you want to make some serious currency or more. I've held them for months if I don't want to make currency off of them right away. What skill would you recommend for an MFR in the early league? Ellie hit most likely because it's got a bunch of free extra damage and your weapon's gonna be real shit. So free damage is good. And then you can get an actual skill later, but Ellie hit should work at the beginning. Where's the new skill tree? I have no idea. Why did GG hate Pure Fizz? I don't know. Maybe next league we'll get a rework. You surprised the cultist did not get a nerf? No. They nerfed the immunity to damage builds, which is what I wanted. Otherwise the cultist is fine. I feel like Slayer on Duelist got a massive nerf. Do you think it'll still be viable? Yeah, it'll still be viable. It's just going to get toned down slightly. I think I didn't understand the leech mechanics in the last video correctly to like say it was nerfed that badly. I'm pretty sure it's going to be fine. I'll test it when the league starts though. What spell do you recommend for a cultist starter build? Any spell, it doesn't matter. Yeah, the Hatred got nerfed. I'm pretty sure it got buffed. I think EK is going to be huge this league. I can't tell for sure. Maybe. Thank you for the consistency with uploads on YouTube. No problem, man. I upload every day for the past 3.5 years or so. I've been pretty consistent about that. Cast while channeling Blight Bane? Sure. Alright, I think that will conclude the Q&A section. We'll keep talking on stream about this, but I need to end this YouTube video, so if you guys on YouTube enjoyed, hit the like button and subscribe. You know what to do. Come follow me on twitch.tv/Demi. I'll see you in the next video. That'll be Demi out.